Guys, today I want to talk about prenatal fitness, or that means during pregnancy, and the common assumption that if you did it before you were pregnant, you can continue doing it while you're pregnant. And this is a common misconception about prenatal fitness. So for a really good example is running. You know, if you were running marathons before you were pregnant, you can just carry on running, but don't start anything new. That's normally the advice that we're given by doctors, and for the most part, I guess it's okay advice. But I would beg to differ, and I would say that there's a specific way of training. Obviously, if you are a sportswoman and you love your sport and then there's slightly different factors at hand here. But if your aim is to have a healthy pregnancy, to have a healthy birth, have a healthy baby, and then to train your body in order to be able to cope with the demands of pregnancy, childbirth, and then motherhood, then I think that's actually incredibly bad advice. And that there's a very specific way that you should train during pregnancy in order to keep fit and in order to meet those demands. Now, a really common example is like running. So if you were running before, then you should just keep running. You can keep running. Running is not ideal during pregnancy for a number of reasons. The first is that we have very high levels of relaxin in our body. This helps to soften our ligaments and tendons, for the reason that we're going to have to open up pretty wide to let a human being come out of us, and the ligaments need to be softened for that. So we have huge amounts of hormones in our body that weaken the ligaments, that soften the ligaments, and running is a very high impact sport. Every time you hit the ground, something like 3 times your body weight is banging down into each foot, and that sends a lot of impact through your ankle, for your ankle joint, for your knee joint, your hip joint, and all the way up your back. If all of your joint capsules and your ligaments and tendons are not holding everything in place, you're really, really prone to injury. And the second part of that story is your pelvic floor. Pelvic floor also has a lot of ligaments and tendons in it, and it also has a lot of weight coming down on it, and now it's all kind of slightly weakened. It has the weight of your entire thorax and pelvic floor and your abdominal contents on it, and the impact over and over and over again can be problematic for the pelvic floor. It can weaken the pelvic floor. It can lead to a hypertensive pelvic floor. It can lead to a lot of problems, but ultimately you can end up with leaking, incontinence, or prolapse as a result of high impact sports. Not just running, but things like netball, basketball, things that involve a lot of running and landing on each foot separately. But then also sports like CrossFit have a lot of impact in them, like jump rope, box jumps, things like this. Just not ideal, just not good for our pelvic floor. A lot of people like to talk about how exercise will impact the fetus, which I'll come on to in a minute. No, actually, I'm going to come on to it now. The other kind of reason why running is not supposedly good for us is because we don't want to raise our heart rate too high. The general guideline is above 140 beats per minute, keeping in mind that as a pregnant lady, your heart rate is already 10 beats above what it was when you weren't pregnant. So running something sustained can really jack your heart rate up, and it's not hard to get to 140 BPM with like sustained running. Even if you're a trained runner, if you're pregnant, it's going to be challenging. However, everyone loves to talk about pregnancy training during pregnancy, fitness during pregnancy, and how it will affect the fetus. the argument is that the fetus can't regulate its own body temperature, and so if we jack our body temperature, the fetus can't like regulate that. So we want to ensure that our body temperature stays normal. However, we don't really know this. This is really just speculation, because we don't know if we can't do studies. Like, we can't take 100 pregnant women and have half of them train at high intensity and half of them not, and then see what happens to the fetus if it comes out deformed or something. Like, we can't do that kind of trial. So we don't really know. It's mainly speculation. And there are a hell of a lot of women who are doing high intensity exercise all the way through their pregnancy, who are running marathons, who are training at very high heart rates. There's a lot of women who have just been sick when they were pregnant and had a really high fever and their body temperature went through the roof, but the baby wasn't harmed in any way. So there are a lot of anecdotal evidence to say that that's not true. However, it's still the guideline that I give to people, and it's still the guideline that we learn, because better safe than sorry, I guess. And we can't really know. But my main concern with sports like running and impact sports is pelvic floor. And a lot of women during pregnancy tell me, no, I'm fine, I did it before I ran. And then I mention the pelvic floor and they're like, oh, really? Because I'm already starting to leak. And it's like, yeah, that's a sign that you should hold back on the running. And I know it sucks and I know it's annoying. If you love running, then it really sucks to have to hold back on the running. Really good alternative is hill walking. You can get your heart rate up, but you can do it in intervals, bring your heart rate back down. It's really good for the posterior chain. It will start to strengthen the backs of the legs and the bum more, rather than and it puts the pelvic floor in good alignment. So that could be a really good alternative, pardon me, if you really need something. Another example is things like Pilates and yoga. I actually really love yoga, and I think most people should do it. We do need modifications for prenatal yoga though, and there are lots of good prenatal yoga teachers around, so make sure you find one that comes highly recommended. Pilates in general, I'm not a fan of, sorry. There's too many sit-ups, crunches, things like that, and it's just, there's no need to do it, especially during pregnancy. And the other really sort of famous example is heavy weightlifting and CrossFit and things like that. And we're seeing lots and lots of videos of women doing crazy things while they're heavily pregnant and chucking heavy weight around. And again, the main concerns are the impact with things like double unders, or skipping or jump rope for the Americans. It's also things that could cause injury. Then there's also the running, lifting heavy weights, everything, or any sort of really dynamic movements with heavy weights are likely, you're more prone to injury at this stage. But also just working at a really high intensity and getting your heart rate really, really high, that's not the time to be doing that during pregnancy. So I guess that leaves how you should train during pregnancy, and what you should really focus on. You can't get your heart rate up, right? So what you really should focus on is strength work, is working on strengthening your body, and not strengthening your core. It is important to have a strong core, but the way you do that isn't by doing sit-ups and things like that. And you can, with a good coach and a good postnatal or prenatal, in this instance, certified instructor, they can help you to do that. You want to focus on strengthening the posterior chain, which means the bum and the back. I've done a whole separate video on how you should train during pregnancy, so please go and take a look at that. But for now, suffice to say that you really want to focus on strengthening. Strengthening exercises don't jack your heart rate the way that cardio exercises do. And it's going to serve you much more for those later stages of pregnancy where you've got a lot of weight leaning forward and you need a strong back and bum and legs to hold all of that up straight without kind of like leaning back, like that pregnant lady lean. And then when you're a mum, you're going to be nursing a lot, you're going to be hunched over a lot of the time, and you really need to open all of that up, strengthen the back. So but check out my other video. It's actually a 3-part video, but that's kind of my overall kind of point of view when it comes to, like, should you do what you did before you were pregnant. I hope it was helpful. Let me know what you think. Post any questions or comments below, and give me a like, a share, subscribe, all of that stuff. Thanks. Bye.